Welcome to Finding Holiness, where we delve into timeless Torah wisdom, revealing the sacred in everyday moments. Join us on a journey to elevate your spirituality and discover holiness in every aspect of life. I'm your host, Rabbi David Kadosh, and together, let's embark on a path of spiritual exploration. I hope you enjoy this next episode. All right, Erev Tov, everybody. Shavua Tov. Continuing with the laws of the Hafetz Chaim, we are in Klal Gimel, Halacha Hey. V'yesh od harbe ofanim. There are many cases, other cases, be'ba'alei lashon hara mesaperin derech ramaut, where habitual lashon hara speakers can relate the lashon hara very cunningly. Vehu, for instance, shemesaprin ha'inyan lefit tuman al chavrehen. They speak about a matter concerning their friends very innocently in the course of conversation. Ke'ilu enam yodim de davar zeh shedibru lashon hara. Who, as though they are unaware that the matter that they're talking about is lashon hara. So they pretend that it's just innocent information, neutral information, but they know that the listener is going to interpret it negatively. So here the scenario says, Mrs. Schwartz, quote unquote, innocently describes to Mrs. Weiss the magnificent and luxurious design of the Gluck home. Since Mrs. Schwartz knows that Mrs. Weiss has strong opinions about excessive materialism, Mrs. Schwartz has thereby disparaged the Glucks in Mrs. Weiss's eyes, and her comment thus constitutes Lashon Hara. Or, alternatively, she'elu ma'asav shel ploni, they describe some type of negative behavior that describe the action part that is about a known person. All of this in similar forms are considered Lashon Hara. So here the note says, scenario F, Rabbi Friedman is a rabbi in a metifta, in a high school or yeshiva. He goes bicycling twice a week to exercise. Aryeh thinks nothing of Rabbi Friedman's exercise program until Reuven meets Aryeh and cunningly lectures him about how unseemly it is for rabbis to exercise in public. Although Reuven never mentions Rabbi Friedman's name, Reuven has demeaned him in Aryeh's eyes, and doing so is thus forbidden as Lashon Hara. Okay. Halacha 6. Halacha Vav. Veda, you should know, that even if one's Lashon Hara does not cause shum ra'a la'ishahu, any damage to the party about who it is spoken about, it is still forbidden. Kegon. Shelo kiblu hashomein devarav. If Reuven spoke derogatory information about Shimon, but the listeners didn't believe Reuven's report, v'chayotze bazeh, or similar scenario, af al pichen miklal lashon hara lo nafka. Such words are not excluded from lashon hara, v'tzarich kapara, and you require atonement. V'yoter mizeh. So scenario here says, scenario G. After David fired Jack found success at a new job. Nevertheless, everyone knew about his burning anger at David, who had been a longtime friend. Jack commented to a neighbor that he was glad to finally work for someone who knows what he's doing. Knowing that the comment comes from bitterness, the neighbor disregards it. However, it is still Lashon Hara. V'yoter mizeh, moreover, even if Reuven surmises from the outset that his words will not cause any harm to the subject, because he knows that the listeners will not accept the report, he's still not allowed to speak negatively about Shimon. You should know further. Klal gadol ve'ikar ba'inyanim elu. There's a fundamental principle pertaining to these matters. Im hu ro'eh le'adam, if Reuven sees Shimon shediber davar o asa ma'aseh, that he spoke or behaved in a questionable manner, ben mima sheben adam lamakom o mima sheben adam lahavero, whether it is something between him and Hashem or him and his friend, ve'yesh lishpot devaro u'mahaseu letzad hatov u'letzad hazechut, and it is possible to judge Shimon's questionable actions in a positive, favorable light, rather than a negative light. The law is, im ha'ishahu yere Elohim, if Shimon is a pious, God-fearing man, nitchayev ladin oto lekav zechut. Reuven is obligated, he's required to give him benefit of the doubt and judge him favorably. Afilu im hadavar karov venote etzel adat yoter lekav chova. Even if it seems more weighted to be possibly guilt, he still, because Shimon is a God-fearing, pious man, you have to, you're chayav to judge him favorably. So here, scenario H talks about one Shabbat, a shul hosts a guest speaker. As the speech goes on, the rabbi keeps checking his watch. Finally, he leaves the room. After tefillah, Avi tells his friend that their rabbi has an ego and resents giving up the spotlight. Despite appearances, because the Rav is learned and God-fearing, Avi must judge him in a positive light and assume there was good reason for his behavior. Okay. The note also here says, this concept explains why the punishment for the sin of the spies who spoke Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael was a decree to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. 1 year of wandering in punishment for each of the 40 days the spies spent investigating Israel. At first glance, the punishment is puzzling. While the spies traveled Eretz Yisrael for 40 days, they slandered the land only for 1 day, not for 40 days. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz in Sichot Musar explains that they were punished for their jaundiced view of Eretz Yisrael, because this is the underlying evil of one who speaks Lashon Hara, and that sin extended for 40 days. Okay. Ve'im hu, continues, Ve'im hum ben benonim. If, let's say, Shimon was not a tzaddik or not a pious man, he was a regular guy, an average piety type of person. Asher izaru min achet ufamim mikashlu bo, meaning sometimes he refrains from sin, but sometimes he stumbles. Im hasafek shakul, then if the issue is equally weighted, that means it could be he acted appropriately, could be he didn't. Tzarich le'atot hasafek ulachrio lekav zechut. One is required to decide the law, or to decide for himself and judge him favorably. Kemo shamru rabotenu, like our chachamim say in Masechet Shabbat, hadan et chavero lekav zechut, hamakom yedineu lekav zechut. If someone judges his friends favorably, then Hashem, in return, will judge him favorably. Vehu nichnas bichlal mamaroi parach, and this obligation is also included in what Hashem said, betzedek tishpot amitecha, a mitzvah in Parashat Kedoshim, with righteousness you shall judge your fellow. However, if Shimon did something that weighs more towards guilt, in that situation, one is not required, because he's of average person, and he's not required to give Shimon the benefit of the doubt. Va'afilu im hadavar noteh yoter lekav chova, nachon me'od she'yeh hadavar etzlo kemo safek. Even if the matter is more towards guilt, and you're not obligated to give him the benefit of the doubt, at least consider it inconclusive. Ve'al yachriyeu lekav chova, rather than assume that he's guilty by law. Ubamkom she'hadavar noteh lekav zechut, and therefore, in a case in which it seems likely that Shimon did was justified, certainly forbidden to actually judge him unfavorably. And if Reuven judges Shimon unfavorably in a situation where you should be judging him favorably, and as a result of this unfavorable judgment, Reuven now proceeds to disparage him, not only did you violate the commandment of B'tzedek tishpot amitecha, which is with righteousness you should judge your fellow, because he was deserving of such, you also transgressed Sipur Lashon Hara, speaking Lashon Hara. Let's do one more halakha to finish the klal. Va'afilu b'makom she'akaf chov machriya yoter. Even a situation where Shimon's questionable action, being improper, outweighs that was proper. Demitzad adin leika isura kol kach, where there would not be much of a prohibition by law, im yachrieu lekaf chova, for Reuven to judge him unfavorably, still would not permit Reuven to speak negatively about Shimon. Hainu leinyan shiuskam b'nei atzmo alav she'asa shelo kadin. In such a case, the law only permits Reuven to conclude in his own mind that Shimon acted inappropriately. You have no right to go around and say, this is what Shimon did. You saw Shimon come out of McDonald's and taking a bite from the burger. So it's no longer something that, I maybe went to the bathroom, okay? No, you saw him. No, he ate the burger. Fine. So in your own mind, you can conclude that, he did something wrong. That doesn't give you a right to go and spread that to other people. Unless all the conditions that are delineated in clouds 4, 5, and 10 are fulfilled, we didn't get there yet. Because there are many cases where even if Shimon had indeed acted improperly, you would still be forbidden to disparage him to others, which will be clarified in these klalim. So just to summarize klal 3, it is forbidden to speak Lashon Hara even if A, in the presence of the subject, B, in jest, not out of spite, C, if the listeners will not believe the Lashon Hara, D, if it will not cause the subject harm, E, if the name of the subject is not mentioned but can be inferred some other way, and F, if what is said is seemingly a neutral remark but the speaker intends to cause a negative outcome. All those situations it's forbidden to speak Lashon Hara. When it comes to judging favorably, if someone witnesses a fellow Jew doing or saying anything that can be interpreted as proper or improper, the observer is obligated to judge him favorably depending on the following. A, if he's a God-fearing person, then he has to judge him favorably, even if the act seems more improper than proper. But the fact that he's a Hasid, or Tamid Chacham, you have to judge him favorably. And if he's an average Jew, we call that, again, for lack of a better term, okay, meaning sometimes he stumbles, then you have to judge him favorably only if either possibility is equally likely. If guilt is more likely, it's preferable to judge him favorably, but he's not obligated to. However, he is still forbidden to spread or disparage him on the basis of this assumption. You can keep it in your mind, but you can't go out and spread that what you saw and what you think.